Our core public service, that's ministries and departments, not schools or hospitals or state-owned enterprises, has grown by 220% since the turn of the century. Our population has increased by only 30% in that time. That's pretty astonishing. Here's another way of looking at it. In the year 2000, the core public service was a Timaru, that's 30,000 souls. Today it is almost a Napier at 63,000. If the core public sector had its own city, it would be our 10th largest. As it is nestled mostly inside our third largest city, Wellington. And 90% of this increase has occurred under Labour governments. Why? Well, socialist governments like Labour only have a hammer, and so everything looks like a nail. How do you tackle rising healthcare costs due to ageing hospitals, costly medical advances, and an older population? Labour says, more centralised bureaucracy, more Wellington. What about water infrastructure that is falling behind as local governments have been tasked with broader scopes without additional capital? Sounds like a job for a centralised bureaucracy. More paperwork and committees, and bureaucrats will fix it. An applied education system struggling to deliver against critical skills shortages? That's a job for a centralised bureaucracy. If that won't get young people learning, nothing will. And how about a global pandemic threatening our health and our economy? Yep, centralised bureaucracy. That's what they say. What else? As a result, there's no team of 5 million, they're a team of less than 100,000, and we're the several millions that they rule over. It's not that the core public service cannot or should not have a big role in providing coordination, consistency, and scale when responding to big challenges. An effective bureaucracy is a precondition of a modern state. It is a huge and powerful hand that can reach down from above and make a huge impact. However, it becomes an issue when a government has a reflexive instinct to use the core public service for everything, taking problems away from community organisations, local governments and business groups, rather than solving those problems, their problems, with them. That same huge and powerful hand by itself simply cannot reach those in the cracks. It cannot work at community scale. This is why previous governments have put empowered community organisations at the centre of their strategies. Compare and contrast how progress on rural clean water has moved from being significantly farmer-led to government imposition of unworkable rules, from moving with momentum under community leadership to being slowed down by exclusion and rancour. Labour's instinct for ever more centralisation draws an unnecessary line between problem sufferers and problem solvers. Communities are framed as victims rather than as being empowered and capable of helping themselves. The government and its public service are framed as their saviours. This is how Labour chooses to operate its enlarged Wellington cadre. It could use it to oversee meaningful community and stakeholder consultation. It doesn't do that. Instead, it makes changes unannounced and unilaterally. Or it uses its resources to enact a propaganda exercise in consultation's clothing. Examples include the oil and gas exploration ban and Three Waters. It could use it to implement devolution to community providers and community-led solutions. It doesn't do that. Instead, it prefers to go alone or pushes communities out altogether. Kiwi Build is a good example. Under Labour, the public service is used to dictate to and manage us rather than work alongside us. And so, Wellington just doesn't get us anymore. Not only is our public service becoming more physically distant through centralisation, it is becoming more mentally and culturally distant. The enlarged public service forms a bubble of different lived experiences, different income and different working conditions, and different goals. This is why government campaigns always sound like they are tailored more for Wellington than for Northland or Tairāwhiti or even Auckland. This is why, for example, the Road to Zero campaign advertisements only tell the public that the bureaucrats are working on something. We are not asked to help make our roads more safe, only to be grateful that Wellington is doing something. The beneficiary of this expensive campaign is the public service, not the public. That's the bubble mindset. Okay, but hang on, you may say. Isn't co-governance Labour's big thing? Isn't that devolution? Governance partnerships with Māori are a big focus for Labour, but sadly, they do not represent meaningful devolution. Labour's approach to co-governance is top-down. It's about growing a parallel bureaucracy. Labour's co-governance entities will be no closer to the people they rule over than a Wellington bureaucrat is to a Rousey in an East Coast bullshit. Labour-style co-governance is an expansion of Wellington's grasp and control, not a sharing of it. They say that governments fall when they lose touch. Labour isn't losing touch, it's actively distancing itself. I believe that, more than any single decision or policy, is what is driving Ardern's Labour towards an unceremonious departure from power. When that happens, that Wellington bubble will have to pop. New Zealand needs a government that works alongside us, not at arm's length. New Zealand needs a government that can reach those in the cracks, not loom over them. Most of all, New Zealand needs a government that puts its resources into the front lines, not its back offices. I'm Camryn Brown for The Common Room. To see more videos like these, subscribe at commonroomnz.com.